I don't know what it is about white supremacy that he loves so much, and his social media postings didn't give us any information about this. But anyway, let's just start at the beginning. There was a shooting in a grocery store in Boulder, Colorado. All 10 of the victims were white, and the shooter had quite pale skin. And so Twitter, the verified checkmarks as usual, went nuts. As you can imagine, is exactly the same, obviously, and they were convinced. Well, he looks
unable
white.
to help themselves.
They
Like,
can't.
just,
Well, no,
just shut up, wait for the facts, and then state the facts.
yeah. I mean, like at least in the previous example, the guy was actually of European descent. There's that. I mean,
his motive wasn't white supremacy, but
no, it wasn't racism, white supremacy, or anything else. But at least he was a European man, of European descent. But this one, what was the guy's name again? I actually haven't got it written down in front of me for some reason.
do we have to say it? I don't even care.
Yeah, okay.
Just some loser.
Yeah, some loser, right? But anyway, so let's go to the next one, right? Because this is just a montage of people on Twitter. Like, it's always an angry white man, always. I mean, except where it isn't. I mean, we have the statistics, and if we go to the statistics next...
So it says the racial inclusion officer there.
Yeah, says the racial inclusion officer. It's always a white man. Well, it's not always a white man. 2/3 of the time, it's a white man. And this is statistics that does not include gang shootings. So if you've got various inner city gangs, then if you look at the convictions for people who kill 4 or more people in a single go, then it's actually racially very different. But even then,
excluding that, what is the white population of the United States?
Oh, about 70%. So this is roughly what you would expect proportionally.
So it's less likely to be a white man.
Yeah, but despite being 13% of the population, the black population accounts for 21% of the mass shootings in the United States. So just weird how these statistics are a hate crime. But anyway, let's go to the montage of checkmark takes and pick out a few good ones. The shooter was taken into custody. In other words, it was almost certainly a white man. Again, if he were black or brown, he would be dead. Okay. Extremely tired of people's lives, depending on whether a white man with an AR-15 is having a good day or not. So, of course, this happened to be Ahmed Al-Iwi Alissa. Very European name, that. It turns out he was a Muslim immigrant from Syria. If we go to the next one. As Andy No points out, to CJ Werleman, who is a notorious Islamophile and defender of everything Islamic, including terror attacks sometimes, and of course hates white people. So look, it's a white man who had a bad day, and I guess you could come away with that impression, judging from the fact that the guy is quite pasty. He's not a very dark-skinned man, but he is from Syria, but that's because the Middle East is actually a really complex place, and there has been a great deal of immigration there from all directions over the millennia that it has been in existence, and so race isn't really that useful a thing in the Middle East, especially when everything is divided on religion.
That's one of the things. Race isn't useful anywhere outside of the New World.
Yeah.
Anywhere in the Old World, we don't care about such things. We care about the ethnicity of the person.
Yeah.
Like, are you a German?
Or the religious beliefs.
Yeah. Things like this are much better at determining what a person is, rather than just white or black.
Exactly. It's totally irrelevant over here. It just doesn't help. And
it makes the Americans look really, really low IQ as well.
Yes.
Like, so not all Americans, obviously. We're talking about the leftists.
No, the American leftists on Twitter, obviously.
Yeah, when they define everything as white or black, it's just like, it's like an American coming over and saying, isn't Europe a country? It's usually looking at them like, what? But dropped on her head as a child.
The Israelis are quite Middle Eastern looking, and yet for some reason they're fighting with all of these other Middle Easterners. I just can't understand it. Hasn't anyone told them they're the same race? It's like, well, yeah, we've done the genetic studies. It turns out that the Israelis have got like genes that, all of these people have got genes that have been there for thousands of years. So why are they fighting? Oh, I just don't know.
It's like an American comes to the Middle East forum and it's like, the Israelis have bombed the Syrians. Why are we talking about white on white crime? Idiots.
It's so ridiculous. But yeah, so the Middle East is not like a racially homogenous place, but no one cares because that's not the problem. It's not what people are talking about. But anyway, let's go to the next one. Islam was trending apparently. This was just an incredible turnaround from Wajahat, the butter influencer. White mass shooters somehow always get caught alive. Just saying. Also white insurrectionists. And then a few moments later, if we can scroll down a bit, John. Islamic is trending. Don't even have to click on it. Let me guess. Right-wing outrage and racism over the identity of the Boulder shooter.
But I thought it was always right-wing.
Incredible. But that's quick. Outrage and racism over the identity of the Boulder shooter. Amazing. What were you doing, Wajahat? What were you doing? This was one of my favorite takes. In fact, I think this next one, the bold shooter is a white man. The bold shooter is a white man, period. And then someone's like, except he's not. And then she's like, well, what's his race? And don't say Syrian or Muslim or Arab because those aren't a race.
Who says that? What?
Americans
Stupidest
say that.
thing.
Americans say that when they're on Twitter, right?
Oh,
but the thing is, I mean, you're wrong about Arab. Arab is a race, and that's fine. No one cares, right? But the point is, when you say Muslim isn't a race, bravo. I agree. Islamophobia is not a form of racism. British Council of Muslims BTFO'd by some dumbass American on Twitter.
I mean, I actually agree with that. Muslim isn't a race.
That's true, yeah.
You've got me.
Yeah. One of the most embarrassing ones is an author called Amy Siskind, and there are many examples of her doing this. After every mass shooting, she takes to Twitter to blame white people or men and then put her foot completely in it. For example, the shooter was taken into custody. In other words, it was almost certainly a white man. Again, if he was black or brown, he'd be dead. Then what? Turns out that if we can go to the next one, John. Next image, sorry, not the next link. Let's mourn the victims, but not glorify the killer with having the attention of his name widely known. It's because it's an Arab name, isn't it?
No, it's an Arab name.
Yeah, yikes.
Cut the feed.
Yeah, yes. And so, let's just keep going. I'm loving these check marks. This is Uzair Hassan Rizvi, a poor white guy who may have had a bad day or just a sex addict, killed at least 10 people in Boulder. He was not only apprehended, not choked or shot to death because he was not black, brown, or Muslim. Oof, takes that aged poorly. If we go to the next screenshot. This guy, journalist from AFP Fact Check. Well, fact check it yourself, buddy, because it turns out he was very much a Muslim.
Debunking misinformation / fake news.
Yeah.
Like when you get banned for fake news on Facebook, these are the guys who are doing it.
And tweets this out with debunking misinformation, fake news as a quote, and then the reply tweet of him blocking Andy No. Because that's how you know you won the argument on the internet. There was quite a spicy take from Michael Moore that was actually rather amusing. The life of Ahmad al-Alawi Alissa shows that people can come from all over the world and truly assimilate into our beloved American culture. Is now the time for dark jokes, Michael? I mean, I thought that was our job.
I mean, God, I can't believe I'm doing this, but in an attempt to steel man his position, he would be arguing that this guy has become a mass shooter, which is so common in America.
It's a part of American culture. Yeah, I agree. Mass shootings are a part of American culture, unfortunately.
So
maybe we should start listening to those people we've marginalized by calling them evil and oppressive. Just saying. Yeah, maybe if white men, or not even white men, but just generally the people were pathologized for things and they actually had a more inclusive sort of accepting form of culture, the progressives, I mean, then maybe these things would happen less frequently. But who knows? Anyway, I say my favorite, but a lot of these things are my favorite because I really enjoy all of these foot and mouth events. Tariq Nasheed. Tariq, how could you do this, man? I was bigging you up yesterday, and now look at this. The Boulder CEO shooting suspect is a white man named Ahmed Alissa. Okay, Tariq.
The whitest of white names, Ahmed.
Several white supremacists online are now trying to claim that this white suspect isn't white based on his name. They love playing the denial of whiteness game when it's convenient, so let's address white crime. Okay, Tariq. The fact that dude gunned down 10 people and the police didn't shoot his ass, that means he's white. We ain't going to start playing games just because he was born in Syria. I suspect white is enough to benefit from the privileges of whiteness.
Jesus Christ.
Look, just because he wasn't born in Europe or of European descent, we're not going to start playing this game. If the cops arrested him, he becomes white. So every black person who gets arrested by the cops is now a white person, according to Tariq Nasheed's amazing logic.
Reverse you ain't black moment.
Yeah.
Which is like, you white. Nah.
Yeah.
But also, I love the idea that if we accept this nonsense as well, then suddenly a lot more of Britain becomes white overnight.
Yeah, suddenly every black person who gets arrested but not shot by the cops is a white man. So congratulations on your white privilege. You've just joined the Asians as the newest additions to the white race, according to Tariq Nasheed.
Yeah, the white race looks pretty bloody inclusive at this point.
It's growing.
It includes all of the Middle East and all of Asia and all of Europe.
The fastest growing race on Earth.
So when does it include all of Africa? By next week?
Well, all they need to do is get arrested and not shot. I mean,
Tariq's going to get arrested and not shot, and then he's in.
Yeah, then you're in. Then your black privilege is gone, Tariq. But Tariq followed up on this. He didn't stop here, right? He's like, white supremacists are trying their hardest to deflect from the fact that bolder suspect is white. Syrians in America are legally, politically, and socially white. Their white status is well documented in court cases. Terms like Muslim, Arab, and Islamic doesn't change whiteness. That's right, all Muslims and Arabs are now white. They are basically North Europeans. In every sense. This is absurd, Tariq, you bloody idiot. Stop talking, you are an American. In America, these things don't make any sense either, but anyway.
That's why all the white nationalist groups of Europe, they never target anyone of Middle Eastern origin, ever.
They're not...
Like, what's up, my white boy?
Yeah, like, exactly. My fellow Abrahamic religionist. It's just...
Oh, man.
Just Americans.
White is the new black.
Just American leftists.
Oh, from the chat, white is the new black. Yes, it is.
Just everyone in the Middle East just loves being white. Anyway, so Heavy...
Hello, Shuri, Al-Bashar, and white. You don't get that reference, do you?
No. It's a Syrian thing, though,
yeah,
isn't
it's a Syrian song.
Yeah, I don't...
Hello, Shuri, Al-Bashar. Anyway.
I'm not as big a fanatic of Eastern dictatorships as you are.
I don't endorse it. I just think it's a really funny song. It's like, well, it looks like really weird.
But anyway, Heavy did one of their fast facts about the guy, and it's a really good article. Basically, Ahmad Al-Lisa, I mean, it's such a European name, I can't pronounce it. Is a 21-year-old Colorado man who was identified as a suspect. He was born in Syria, but spent most of his life in Colorado. Big fan of Islam, apparently. One of the things he said was, Muslims might not be perfect, but Islam is. I mean, I don't agree, but whatever. I mean, I agree that Muslims might not be perfect.
Look, communists might not be perfect, but communism is.
Well, that's exactly the same principle. It's exactly the same principle. This is why we can call the radical leftists the jihadis of the Enlightenment, because that's basically their view. But according to the police, Alyssa stripped off his clothes inside the store and was bleeding from his leg when he was arrested. And what they had done is gone up to him and said, surrender yourself. And he surrendered himself, which is why he wasn't shot. Which is incidentally why anyone isn't shot by the cops. When they surrender, the cops actually don't tend to shoot them, which is interesting because that's not what Tariq Nasheed believes. But yeah, so they spoke to various people who knew Alyssa, and his brother said that he was deeply disturbed, very antisocial and paranoid. In high school, he would say he was being chased by someone, or someone is behind him and someone's looking for him. He thought that racists were trying to hack his phone. Apparently his former wrestling team was on the wrestling team when he was at school, and his former teammate said he was short-tempered and scary and once threatened to kill people during a match. His senior year during the wrestle-offs to see who makes varsity, he actually lost his match and quit the team and yelled out in the wrestling room that he was going to kill everyone. Nobody believed him, but we're all kind of freaked out by it, but nobody did anything. He would talk about him being a Muslim, and if anyone tried anything, he would file a hate crime and say they were making it up. He was always talking about how people were looking for him and that no one was even there when he was saying this. They always thought he was messing around, but it turns out he was bloody mental. On Facebook, he posted about his belief about being stalked and said that he believed that in part it was racism for sure that someone was stalking him, and also believed someone spread rumours about him that were false and that maybe that set him off. Okay, so that's interesting. And one of the things you get from his Facebook postings is a bizarre mix of Muslim religiosity and traditionalism and progressive talking points. So it's very interesting how he's at the sort of intersection between these two philosophies.
The Islamo-Leftist Alliance.
It is the Islamo-Leftist Alliance that we're seeing here, incidentally. But to be honest with you, I don't think this guy was actually... we've got no evidence that he was doing it for Islam.
We have no motive as of yet. The police have not released anything.
So witnesses from the shooting, one witness told the Denver Post that he entered the grocery store wordlessly and opened fire. He didn't say S, he just came in and started shooting. He let off a couple of shots, and then he let off a couple more. He wasn't spraying. These are apparently targeted. Given his past unpredictable history, it seems that he was just a mental who went on a killing spree because he's an angry man who's full of rage.
We don't know the motive.
But we don't know.
The police have said nothing.
No, exactly. But and just what we can gather from the statements about people who knew him was just, well, he was really angry and kind of unhinged. He didn't go in with any ideological motive that he announced, which is weird because normally when these things happen, they do have a certain catchphrase that they yell. So, that's a fairly easy way to identify it. So I'm not going to ascribe this to Islam. But yeah, Apparently one witness said that they heard the police yelling surrender now. It turns out he did surrender. He wasn't very political up until 2016 before the presidential election, but at times he shared anti-Trump posts. He shared pro-immigration posts. He shared one anti-abortion post and wrote abortion is disgusting. So you see how it's like very much the leftist narrative and the Islamic narrative. In 2019, he shared a post about Christchurch, the mosque shooting, with the meme that said, the Muslims at the Christchurch mosque were not the victims of a single shooter, they were the victims of the entire Islamophobia industry that vilified them. Again, it's Islamo-leftism. In May 2019, he wrote, just saying the genocide in Syria and the Rwandan genocide, the Holocaust and slavery are all terrible things that should never have happened, all something in common, too much government control. I mean, comrade libertarian, like, that, I agree. Like, too much government control can lead to genocide, that's right. Weird that a mass shooter would say that. After promoting a bunch of leftist talking points and then a bunch of Muslim talking points, now it's a bunch of libertarian talking points. So this guy's kind of all over the shop. He's the most centrist person around, I guess. And so, yeah, he also didn't like gay rights, it seems. In July 2019, he mocked Microsoft Xbox's rainbow flag logo during Pride Month, saying F-box, the F word that we can't say anymore, loses, PS4 wins, with 2 laughing emojis. And God created Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, just saying.
Oh, God. It's so boomer.
I know. But the point is, like, I don't think he had a coherent ideological position.
Seems like a pretty confused guy, but again, there is no information yet. So the right thing to do is just to say, that's the information that's there.
Yeah, this is the only information we have. There's nothing definitive about it or anything like that. I lean towards him being just a mental. And at one point, by the way, as well, after the ISIS attack in a nightclub in Paris, he added the French... you remember which one it was?
It was Bataclan.
That's right. He added a French flag filter to his Facebook profile. So he was mourning the people killed by ISIS. So again, like I don't think he was jihadi. I think he was just someone who was kind of mad. Facebook, of course, scrubbed his profile immediately because why wouldn't you, Facebook? You wouldn't want people knowing that he opposed Trump.
I hate this. So there's a policy at Facebook and Twitter and whatnot that I understand the reasoning they give, which is that if a mass shooter has happened, they take down the account because it can cause problems. But it's just like, well, yeah, but it looks like you're censoring people finding out what his views were. And that's just true. Like, you are. So
yeah, and you shouldn't. And so, yeah, this is all the information we have at the moment. As with the previous one, we don't really know why it was motivated. Like, we can take the previous one. At least he's got a word for it. At least he said,
well, yeah, he's given a police interview and said, I did it because I'm a sex addict and these guys are engaging in brothels. I
imagine at some point we'll get some information from Ahmed here as to why he did it. But until then, it doesn't seem to have been an expressly political event.
No, and this isn't the only time in history this happened, as I mentioned. Before, we just double-checked to get the facts. So the Spanish government, after the Madrid bombing, they tried to blame it on the Basque separatists. They'd be like, the Basque separatists have done this. And then it turned out it was Al-Qaeda that had blown up the train. And then they lost the next election. It was just like...
Well, Al-Qaeda lost the election.
Sorry. No, the Spanish party that tried to blame it on the Basque separatists. It's just one of these things. Like, when this sort of thing happens, just shut your mouth, for Christ's sake. Like, just, if you don't know, don't say.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Nothing is gained by not politicizing a tragedy.
I mean, I know it sounds like basic...
And nothing is lost, by not politicizing a tragedy.
Like basic dadism, don't lie.
Yeah.
But,
and
really.
Not just that, don't leap before you look, either, which is what's happening here. You know, if we're going to go back to traditional homespun daddist wisdom, just don't put your foot in your mouth. Just shut up if you don't know. If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 PM UK time on lotuseaters.com.